Hey again, everyone. Okay, so these videos seem to be taking forever, but at least I'm not talking 85 miles a minute. Or at least I hope I'm not. I don't feel like I am. Okay, so parathyroid, the parathyroid glands, and we're going to get to pineal gland in a little bit. All right, so there's two pairs, and we're going to see them in a minute. I'll circle them out for you. But altogether, that makes 4 glands. They don't weigh very much. It's about a 4/10 of a gram per gland. They do secrete parathyroid hormone. I don't ever say this, parathyroid. What I don't say that. I don't. I've heard people say it, but I don't say it. All right. They're going to be secreted by the parathyroid cells, which used to be called principal cells. So if you took this class in the past, that's kind of a newer thing. I prefer this name because that reminds me of like the principal who was Gary at the elementary school. Also, this is more, I like things to be named after where they are and what they do. But that's just my little opinion. All right, so since my thingy has to be reset, come on, where are you? We'll switch to green this time, more friendly. One thing you do want to know, obviously there's 2 pairs, there's 4 glands. They're going to be on the posterior side of your thyroid, but you also want to know that parathyroid hormone itself is antagonistic for calcitonin. So, next slide, please. All right, I like how this person is turned around because otherwise I generally have to be like, it's on the other side. And you'll see this doesn't completely wrap around your throat, or not your throat proper, but your entire larynx or whatever. So you've got 4 of them. They're little tiny in weight, 0.4. Okay. And they are going to be secreting the parathyroid hormone. Like we mentioned, I said larynx. I should have said trachea. Apologies. Oh, they are in front of the trachea. I said it right. Okay. This is what one of the glands looks like if you're looking at a cross section of the entire thing. Got some connective tissue here to make sure that the parathyroid gland stays connected. There's a blood vessel so that it gets blood flow. You'll have to pardon me. Speaking of blood, my blood sugar is low and I don't have any food. I have to go shopping. All right, so this is going to be a little vein. It's going to take out the interstitial fluid and, well, not interstitial fluid. I'm sorry. The blood. Okay, sorry. I'm a dork. Okay. So the parathyroid cells themselves are going to be darker than the oxyphil cells. You can see that they're staying a little bit lighter here. And that's kind of the only way you can really tell a difference on this image specifically. What you do want to know for the parathyroid glands and hormone itself is that it helps the osteoclasts turn over the calcium too. So this is again the mineral building up in your bones. It helps calcium to be reabsorbed and used by your kidneys. So it's not as much is lost in urine. So when they say reducing urinary loss, they mean reducing the loss of calcium in the urine. You could read that as like reducing the amount of urine capacity or urine excretion for metrication, but that's not how that's meant to be read. It means it lowers the amount of calcium that is lost in urine. Okay, so again, it's going to stimulate both the formation and secretion of calcitriol, right, by the kidneys. But keep in mind that where'd it go? It's an antagonist for calcitonin, which is not the same thing as calcitriol. So make sure you're paying attention when you read things, whether it's a homework or a quiz. You don't want to lose any points because it was a misread. All right, so homeostatic regulation. This is always important stuff. Okay, so first of all, they don't give us a great grading start point on this particular figure, but whatever. So we'll just say with you had something, you're at a regular area, your blood calcium levels are going down after you've restored them. So we had a disturbing event. We'll get back to that in a minute. But we restored them. So the normal blood calcium, and this varies based on age and biological sex and a couple other factors, is about 8.5 to 11 milligrams per deciliter. Okay. So then we have some stimulus. What happened? What happened? Our blood calcium level went up. We ate a bunch of bananas, or we took in a bunch of calcium and orange juice, and you actually get more calcium from a glass of orange juice than you do a glass of 2% fat milk, non-fat milk, or 2% milk. And that's got to do with some other stuff. Basically, the USC has been lying to us. But anyways, so say you gobble down a whole bunch of bananas and drink a whole bunch of orange juice, and you have a really high blood calcium level. So what's going to happen is the receptors for your clear cells in the thyroid gland are going to say, okay, let me get some calcitonin out into the body, and then your effector organs will be the kidneys and digestive tract. They are affecting it by responding with excretion of calcium, increased excretion of calcium by the kidneys. So, like, let's let it go. We don't want to have too much. We want to get back to homeostasis. So that decreases the calcitriol that's produced by the kidneys, which in turn decreases the calcium absorbed by the digestive tract. So, boom, we're getting back to restoration. So, you'll see this gets in when you increase the excretion of calcium the kidneys put out, then you're going to decrease at the same time the calcitriol the kidneys are producing and decrease the calcium absorbed by the digestive tract. So, this should balance you out. Hopefully, that wasn't too fast. Right. So blood calcium ion part 2. So say the stimulus goes this way, and our parathyroid glands, or the parathyroid, whatever glands, they there's too little calcium, right? So what they do is they secrete this parathyroid hormone, boop boop, right? The kidneys, the bones, and the digestive tract, so 3 instead of 2, respond with increasing the calcitriol that gets produced by the kidneys, which allows the calcium absorption by the digestive tract to increase. It also allows the reabsorption of calcium by kidneys to be increased. So instead of having a blood calcium drop, you've now restored it to regular blood calcium levels. Again, that's 8.5 to 11 milligrams. Oh my goodness. Angry. Sad face. 8.5 to 11. I'm going to put milligrams per deciliter down here. Just a good idea to know. Just like you want to know the pH of your blood. Okay, so adrenal glands, these guys are pretty cool if you ask me, and based on evolutionary indicators. All right, so these guys are on top of each kidney. So they're superior on the border of each kidney. The superficial adrenal cortex, remember the outside, not the core, the outside. It has lipids. It keeps our cholesterol and fatty acids, which we'll talk about how those are digested and stored when we get to digestion. And then it helps us manufacture some steroid hormones we've already talked about. And these are the corticosteroids that we dump into our bodies when we're going through stressful periods of time. So in the inner adrenal medulla, which is in the middle, right, there's some secretion activities that we control by the sympathetic division of your autonomic nervous system. So ANS, autonomic nervous system. And this allows epinephrine and norepinephrine, the NE part of NID, or catecholamines, to be made. All right, so here is what we're talking about. And we've got anatomical position. So this is his right and his left, respectively. What else do I want to say? But they're sitting up there, and you obviously you see the cortex on the outside, and it looks a little bit bumpy, like corn, maybe. So what you'll want to pay attention to and start getting down is the vasculature for how these are, especially when we get to the renal system, how these guys are provided with blood and how and oxygen and nutrients and how those are then removed. All right, so we have 3 zones for our adrenal cortex. Your outer zona glomerulosa, middle zona fasciculata, and then the inner zona reticularis. And I think I said pineal gland wrong earlier. If I did, I apologize. All right, so the outer region, how did I do that when I was you guys' seats? So I think I went. Nope. I think I drew a really ugly adrenal gland. Oh man, this stupid line. All right. But I basically put the outer starting with a G, and then the middle was an F. Oh my god, that's the ugliest F ever. And then so the G, right? The F, and then the R for the most. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's awful. Sorry, guys. All right, so GFR, glomerulosa, no, glomerulosa. I'm so sorry, I need to have food. Fasciculu, fasciculata, and reticularis. My throat is getting sore again. The joys. So I'm not sure how you guys want to do it, but good food and reading is probably something that I came up with, but I'm a dork. I like books. All right. So outer region, these are going to be where your this is going to be where your mineral that always bothers me. Corticoids are made. An example will be aldosterone, right? This one conserves sodium conservation. Conserves. It conserves sodium and helps eliminate potassium. So that'll be important when we talk about the sodium potassium pump later. So you guys will see this guy aldosterone later. And then it also increases sensitivity to salt receptors on your taste buds, which I find interesting, but whatever. It gets secreted when there's a drop in the sodium concentration, a blood volume in total, say you did a blood donation, or blood pressure. Or it gets secreted when you have an increase in potassium. And that makes sense because if you want to conserve sodium, Na, if there's a drop, and then you want to eliminate potassium if there's a rise. All right, so these going to be your sugar steroids, your glucocorticoids, cortisol, corticosterone, and cortisone. And one of these they use as prescription steroid for different kinds of inflammation and infections, but you don't need that. Just a side note. All right, so these in general have an inhibitory effect on releasing more corticotropin hormones from in the hypothalamus. They don't get dropped down. Then your adrenal brain fart. Your adrenal corticothyroid hormones is again in your anterior pituitary. All right. Okay, so these are supposed to accelerate glucose synthesis, which you could call it glycogen formation. As animals, that's what we use. We store glycogen in our muscles and our liver. So liver and muscles. They do have anti-inflammatory effects, while they do lower inflammation, it also inhibits the activities of white blood cells. And that could be said almost in general for any non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, such as aspirin, Tylenol, or naproxen. It may lower inflammation, but it also inhibits the immune system. So keep that in mind. Usually, like if I have a small fever or some inflammation, I'll let it get to about 100 or 101 degrees Fahrenheit before I'll start to take any medicine, because this is where I start to get 101.5, 102. I get uncomfortable really fast. But I want the fever. Most people want the fever to run. This does not apply to children. So that your immune system, it can fight off whatever infection you have. And we'll cover that more when we get to immune system. Right. The zona reticularis. All right. This guy is a branching network, which is kind of fun to look at. Unless you get overwhelmed, and then it's not fun. It's going to follow, the bands that border the adrenal medulla. Yeah, that's plural. Okay, cool. They produce small amounts of androgens. So regardless of biological sex, some androgens will be secreted here, and that's good if you need to build muscle mass or something like that, or you're working out frequently. You want to have some presence of androgens in your body. All right, some get converted to estrogen, which could then be moved on to testosterone, regardless of biological sex. And then these guys stimulate pubic hair, which everybody seems to want to hack off these days with fun words like manscaping, whatever. Weird. The word is weird, not the activity. Sorry. I'm not trying to pass judgment. Okay, so here again, here's your capsule. It looks like corn, right? This is the cortex, which surrounds the middle, the medulla. And I like this figure a lot because it shows you from the adrenal capsule on the outside for each of the internal zones, and then the adrenal medulla on the very inside of the gland. It shows you what's going on, which hormones are there, what the primary targets are. So you'll notice most of them are most cells, except for this one with the kidneys. And now my dog is trying to get in. Hold on a second. Katie Bear, I love you. Go away. Sorry. I have to go feed her too. Oh, it's my kitten. Wow, my kitten's getting big. Okay. Sorry. Back to primary targets. All right. So most cells get targeted by the steroids we see from the zona fasciculata, zona reticularis, and then the adrenal medulla. But the zona glomerulosa pretty much only targets the kidneys. So I don't know if that makes things better for you guys. And I'm talking about it, but this is going to take some studying on you guys' part. Okay, so adrenal medulla, again, two types of cells that secrete stuff. They're going to produce epinephrine, and that's generally from medullary secretion, or medullary, however you want to pronounce it. And then the other produces norepinephrine. And this is the majority of the remainder for the medullary secretion. All right, so when you get activation of the adrenal medulla, we see the results in muscles, whether it's epinephrine or norepinephrine, triggering mobilization of glycogen reserves to being broken down and turned into glucose. So our brain can use it, not just our muscles. All right. We see an adipose tissue, which you'll hear me call adipocytes or fat cells. We see an adipose tissue start to break down into fatty acids so that we can use it for other things that we need in metabolism. And again, the glycogen gets broken down into glucose, whether it's liver or muscles. And in the heart, you'll have beta 1 receptors speeding up. The important part of those receptors is that it strengthens the contractions of the cardiac muscle. And keep in mind, the cardiac muscle is more similar to skeletal muscle than it is to smooth muscle. All right, pineal gland. I'm barely going to make this video. All right, it is going to be behind the third ventricle, which is really close to the hypothalamus. pinealocytes. Pinealocytes. These are where we get our melatonin so we can sleep. And we call them circadian circadian rhythms. And it can be inhibited by reproductive functions, but also can protect us from damage by free radicals that we get from our diet or from smoking or x-rays or whatever. So melatonin has a bunch of functions. And again, if you go on some crazy, super cool new diet and you cut out carbs, you're going to have problems with making melatonin as well as serotonin. Right, pinealocytes. Right. So that's these little guys here in purple. Boop. And here is here it is right here, the pineal gland. So we've been talking about this area over here, hypothalamus, but it's behind your third ventricle over here, your pineal gland. All right, so I'm going to stop this video and get to the next one.